Well, in Uganda, like in the rest of Africa and indeed the world, it's all about jobs, and creation of more jobs. And we're looking at the job situation. We say, okay, where do we need to go? We need to make sure at the end of the day we have more jobs at a higher level of productivity and value added for more people across the whole of Uganda. And taking that as our overriding macroeconomic objective, we then said, what do we need to do as government? Well, how can we help the private sector to create these jobs? Because the private sector is responsible for over 80% of our economy, so they are the ones who create the jobs. But what can government do to help them do that? Again, we looked at our comparative advantages as a country. And our comparative advantages are in agriculture, in agricultural productivity, because Uganda is the net food exporter in the East Africa region. Then also because of our geographical position, Uganda is very well positioned to be the distribution hub for imports and exports to and from the coastal cities of East Africa to South Sudan, Eastern DRC, Rwanda and Burundi. It is still cheaper to reach all these countries through Uganda. So jobs for more people across the whole of Uganda. This is where you come in with an inclusive and sustainable aspect. Using our comparative advantages of agriculture, productivity, and distribution, we said there are 4 areas. Infrastructure, where government can take on those bulky projects that the private sector cannot do because they're very expensive up front and the benefits are very diffused at the end. That is power and transport. The human resource development was a second area, to skill our people in the direction of the jobs that will be upcoming. The third area was in research and development in agriculture, things like extension services, seed certification, demonstration farms, again, to help the private sector help themselves. And of course, the fourth area is maintaining macroeconomic stability. It's the one area where people don't miss it until it's gone. We've looked at surveys taken of investors. What do they need to work in Africa? This is both domestic investors and foreign investors. Surveys done inside Uganda and across Africa by the International Finance Corporation, IFC. And there are 4 recurring themes, which are reliable power supply, not necessarily cheap, but reliable. They want all-weather roads, to and from their areas of production and areas of consumption. They wanted piped water to their production facilities, and they wanted a skilled workforce. Those are the 4 major areas. So that is what we are looking at when we do our program, to give them. The biggest challenge is that we must seize the moment. We have been given a particularly auspicious time in whereby the developed countries are fighting their own economic challenges. You've got emerging world leaders in mostly in East Asia and Brazil, Russia, China, India. And Africa is still the resource-rich continent. So we must make sure that we extract our resources in the most efficient manner and make sure we use those resources to create sustainable development. Our minerals are finite. Take oil, for instance. Uganda has discovered substantial oil quantities. Will never be Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. So they are going to get finished. So what we must do is make sure the black gold below the ground translates into the green gold, the agricultural revolution above ground, that is both sustainable and inclusive. So to that end, what we've done in Uganda is to introduce legislation which is currently in our parliament, say that our oil revenues, petroleum revenues, will be used for infrastructure provision, to plug that infrastructure gap that we need in order for the sustainable economy to take off. And it also takes care of the heritage issue. 20, 30 years down the road, what did you do with all the money, daddy and mommy? Well, look at the roads, the bridges, the power lines, the pipe water all over the country. That's what we're aiming at.